1 year later, the Zalani homeworld looked completely different. Where ruined cities had once smoldered, new buildings rose toward the sky. But these were not just Zalani structures. They were a blend of human engineering and Zalani artistry, creating something beautiful and strong. Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, walked through the streets of New Haven, the first joint human-Zalani city. Around him, children of both species played together in parks. Human engineers worked alongside Zalani scientists in laboratories. Soldiers from both worlds trained together in preparation for whatever threats might come. Elder Keth approached, him moving with the graceful steps that all Zalani possessed. The alien leader's fur had settled into a permanent pattern of calm happiness, something that had not been seen since before the Krex attack. "Admiral Morrison," Elder Keth said in perfect English. He had learned the human language over the past year, just as many humans had learned to speak Zalani. "The Galactic Council has sent another message." Jake took the datapad and read the message. For months, the Council had been debating what to do about humanity's intervention in the Krex-Zalani conflict. Some Council members were grateful that a genocide had been prevented. Others were worried about humans becoming too powerful. "They want to meet with us officially," Jake said. "They're offering humanity full membership in the Galactic Council." Elder Keth's fur brightened with pleasure. "That is wonderful news! Humanity deserves recognition for what you have done." Jake was not so sure. He had studied galactic politics over the past year and learned that the Council was good at talking but slow to act. They had known about the Krex raids for decades, but had done nothing to stop them. "There's more," Jake continued reading. "They want to discuss establishing proper protocols for future interventions. They want to make sure that no species interferes in the affairs of others without Council approval." Elder Keth's fur darkened slightly. "They want to control human actions." "That's what it sounds like," Jake agreed. "They don't want another situation where someone actually helps people in trouble." Amy Collins approached them, now wearing the uniform of a lieutenant colonel in the Human Zalani Defense Force. She had spent the year training mixed units of human and Zalani soldiers, creating something new in galactic military history. "Admiral," she reported, "we've received word from the outer colonies. 3 more species have sent requests for assistance. The Vorthan are facing pirate raids. The Keelan homeworld is being threatened by the Drak Empire, and there are reports of slave traders operating in the Outer Rim." Jake nodded. This was what he had expected. Word of humanity's protection of the Zalani had spread throughout the galaxy. Now every threatened species was looking to humans for help. Ben Rodriguez joined them, wiping grease from his hands. He had been working on the new joint research facilities where human and Zalani engineers were developing technologies that neither species could have created alone. "Admiral, we've got the new ships ready for testing. The Zalani gravity control systems combined with human weapons and armor. They're unlike anything the galaxy has seen before." Dr. Helen Chang walked up to the group, carrying a datapad full of reports. She had spent the year studying Zalani society and biology, but her real breakthrough had been in understanding how humans and Zalani could work together. "Jake," she said, using his first name as she always did, "I've been analyzing the psychological profiles of other galactic species. The Zalani aren't the only peaceful people out there. There are dozens of species that have never developed military capabilities. And now they're all asking for human protection," Jake said. Dr. Chang nodded. "The word is spreading. There's a species from a death world that will fight to protect others. Some species are calling us the Guardian Race. Lisa Park, now the head of the Joint Communications Center, appeared with her usual urgent expression. "Admiral, we're receiving another distress call. This one's different, though. It's not from one species. It's from an alliance of 12 peaceful worlds being threatened by something called the hegemony." Jake felt a familiar tightness in his chest. It was the same feeling he had gotten when they first heard the Zalani distress call. Somewhere out there, innocent people were in danger and calling for help. Elder Keth studied Jake's face and recognized the expression. Over the past year, he had learned to read human emotions almost as well as Zalani ones. "You're going to help them," Elder Keth said. It was not a question. "Of course," Jake replied. "That's what we do." Amy checked her data pad. "Admiral, we have 20 ships ready for deployment. Mixed human Zalani crews trained in the new tactics we've developed." Ben grinned. "The new ships are faster and tougher than anything we've built before. The enemy won't know what hit them." Dr. Chang looked thoughtful. "Jake, if we keep doing this, if we keep answering every call for help, the galaxy is going to change. We're not just protecting individual species anymore. We're creating something new." Jake looked around at his friends and colleagues. Amy, who had learned to fight alongside aliens. Ben, who had found purpose in building things that protected innocent people. Lisa, who had become the voice that carried hope across the stars. Dr. Chang, who understood that helping others was just what humans did. And Elder Keth, representing a species that had learned courage from their human friends. "Maybe that's not a bad thing," Jake said. "Maybe the galaxy needs to change." He activated his communicator and opened a channel to the new distress call. A face appeared on the screen, another alien species with large eyes full of fear and hope. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Human Zalani Alliance," Jake said. "We received your call for help. We're on our way." The alien's expression changed from despair to amazement. "You're really coming? You'll help us?" "That's what we do," Jake replied, echoing the words that had become humanity's unofficial motto. "No one fights alone." As the call ended, Jake looked up at the sky where human and Zalani ships were preparing for departure. In the distance, he could see the construction yards where new vessels were being built, designed to protect rather than conquer. Elder Keth placed a gentle hand on Jake's shoulder. "Admiral, do you ever regret answering our call for help that first day?" Jake thought about everything that had happened, the battles, the losses, the responsibility of protecting entire species, the weight of knowing that millions of lives depended on human courage and determination. "Never," he said firmly. "We didn't just save your people, Elder Keth. You saved us too. You showed us who we could be." "And who is that?" Jake smiled and looked up at the stars, where new voices were calling for help, knowing that humans would answer. "The species that shows up when hope seems lost, the ones who fight for people they've never met, the guardians of those who cannot guard themselves." Amy walked up to them, carrying her equipment bag. "Admiral, the ships are ready. Should we launch?" Jake took one last look at the peaceful city around them, at the children playing in the parks, at the proof that two different species could become family when they chose to trust each other. "Launch all ships," he ordered. "Someone needs our help." The human Zalani fleet rose into the sky, heading toward distant stars where new voices called out in the darkness. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued to debate proper procedures and protocols. But across the galaxy, species that had given up hope began to believe again. The word spread from world to world, carried by traders and travelers, diplomats and refugees. When the innocent called for help, their call would be answered, not by committees or councils, but by the species from the death world called Earth, and their friends who had learned that courage was contagious. The age of human protection had become the age of galactic hope, and in the depths of space, new distress signals waited to be heard, carrying the same desperate message that had started it all. Please, if there is anyone out there who can help us. The answer came back, strong and clear across the void. We're on our way. The news traveled fast through human space. Lisa Park had managed to send a detailed report about the Zalani crisis back to Earth before the New Horizon went dark. When the message reached the Human Defense Force headquarters, it caused an immediate uproar. Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan read the report 3 times before calling an emergency meeting. She was a tough woman with silver hair and steel-gray eyes who had fought in humanity's first space battles. The report from Captain Morrison made her angry in a way she had not felt for years. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed the assembled officers, "we have a situation. One of our survey ships has encountered a species facing genocide. Captain Morrison and his crew are currently missing, presumed dead or captured after attempting to intervene." The conference room was silent. These were military officers who understood the risks of space exploration, but the idea of civilians being slaughtered while calling for help struck them all deeply. Commodore Rick Barnes leaned forward. He was younger than the Admiral, with brown hair and the kind of face that looked trustworthy. "Admiral, what do we know about the Zalani?" "They're exactly what Captain Morrison reported," Admiral Sullivan replied. "Peaceful herbivores with no military capability. They've been part of galactic civilization for 2 centuries without ever building a single warship. They're scientists, artists, and philosophers." "And the Kreks?" asked Colonel Diana Price, the Marine commander. "Raiders and pirates. They've been growing bolder over the past decade, attacking worlds that can't defend themselves. The Galactic Council considers them a minor nuisance because they only attack unimportant species." Commodore Barnes stood up. "Admiral, I request permission to take the Second Fleet to the Zalani system." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "Permission granted. But Rick, I want you to understand something. This isn't just about rescuing one survey ship crew. This is about establishing what humanity stands for in this galaxy." Within hours, 20 human warships were preparing for departure. Unlike the New Horizon, these were purpose-built military vessels with trained combat crews. The flagship, Terra's Resolve, carried Admiral Sullivan herself, along with Dr. Helen Chang's replacement, Dr. Marcus Webb, a specialist in alien cultures. As the fleet prepared to leave, Admiral Sullivan recorded a message to be broadcast throughout. "Human space. Citizens of Earth and the colonies," she said, looking directly into the camera. "Today we face a test of our values. A peaceful species has called for help, and we will answer that call. Not because we have to, but because it's the right thing to do. The Zalani are now under the protection of humanity." The message had an immediate effect. Across human space, volunteers signed up to help. Supply ships loaded with medical equipment, and food headed toward the Zalani system. Engineers prepared to help rebuild whatever the Kreks had destroyed, but most importantly, something awakened in the human population that the galaxy had never seen before. Humans began to think of the Zalani not as strangers, but as family members who needed protection. 6 days later, Admiral Sullivan's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zalani system. What they found was not what they expected. "Admiral," Commodore Barnes reported from the tactical station, "I'm reading 12 Kreks warships in orbit around the planet, but they're not in attack formation. They look confused. Admiral Sullivan studied the tactical display. The Krex ships were scattered and moving erratically, as if they were hunting for something they could not find. Any sign of the new horizon? Negative, Admiral. But I'm picking up communication signals from the planet's surface. Multiple sources, both human and Zalani. Dr. Webb looked up from his station. Admiral, I'm monitoring Krex military communications. They're reporting guerrilla attacks, sabotage, and what they call impossible resistance from the planet's surface. Admiral, Sullivan smiled for the first time in days. Morrison, you clever devil. You didn't just rescue civilians, you started a revolution. The human fleet moved into the system in attack formation. Admiral Sullivan opened a channel to the Krex command. Ship. General Vex, this is Fleet Admiral Sullivan of the Human Defense Force. You will cease all military operations against the Zalani immediately and prepare to withdraw from this system. General Vex's ugly face appeared on the screen. His red scales were darker than usual, and his yellow eyes burned with frustration and anger. "Humans!" he snarled. "I should have known. Your little ship has been causing trouble for days. But 12 ships against 20? You cannot win." "General," Admiral Sullivan replied calmly, "you're forgetting something important. You're fighting a species that evolved on a death world. We don't just outnumber you, we outclass you." The battle that followed became legendary in galactic military history. The human fleet did not fight like other species. Instead of lining up ship against ship, they worked together like a pack of wolves. Commodore Barnes led his destroyers in coordinated attacks, using their superior speed and maneuverability to confuse the heavier Krex ships. Human fighters launched. From the carriers, piloted by men and women who could handle G-forces that would kill most aliens. But the real shock came when the humans demonstrated their tolerance for damage. Krex tactics relied on enemies retreating when their ships were hurt. Human ships kept fighting even with hull breaches and system failures, their crews working to repair damage while under fire. On the planet's surface, Jake Morrison watched the space battle from his hidden command center. Around him, Zalani and human volunteers cheered as they saw the human fleet arrive. "Elder Keth," Jake said to the alien leader, "it's time for the final phase. Signal all resistance cells. We're going to take back your planet." What happened next surprised even the humans. The Zalani, inspired by weeks of human training and the sight of a rescue fleet, rose up all across their homeworld. The gentle herbivores had learned to fight, and they fought with the fury of people protecting their children. Krex ground troops found themselves under attack from every direction. Zalani fighters emerged from forests and mountains, using modified, terraforming equipment as weapons. Storm generators created localized hurricanes that grounded Krex aircraft. Tunneling machines allowed surprise attacks from underground. But most shocking of all was the way the Zalani fought alongside their human teachers. The two species moved together like they had been allies for decades, not days. Humans provided tactical expertise while Zalani provided local knowledge and equipment. General Vex watched his carefully planned conquest fall apart in a matter of hours. His ships were being destroyed in space, while his ground forces were being overrun by enemies who should not have been able to fight. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships, retreat to hyperspace." But Admiral Sullivan was not going to let the raiders escape to attack other innocent worlds. Her ships pursued the fleeing Krex vessels, capturing half of them before they could jump away. General Vex found himself trapped aboard his damaged command ship, surrounded by human marines led by Colonel Price. The big lizard-like alien looked around at the human soldiers with something like fear in his eyes. "What are you?" he asked. "What kind of species fights like this?" Colonel Price removed her helmet, showing a face marked by years of combat. "We're humans, General. We come from a world that spent millions of years trying to kill us. We learned to fight back." "But why?" General Vex demanded. "The Zalani are not your species. Why do you care what happens to them?" Colonel Price smiled, and there was something in that smile that made the alien general step backward. "Because they asked for help, and we answered. That's what humans do." As the battle ended and Krek's prisoners were taken into custody, Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the Zalani homeworld. Cities were in ruins, but the people were alive and free. "Admiral," Dr. Webb reported, "I'm receiving a transmission from Elder Keth. He wants to speak with you." The alien leader appeared on screen, his fur now bright with joy and gratitude instead of dark with fear. "Admiral Sullivan," Elder Keth said, "I do not have words to thank you. Your Captain Morrison and his crew saved our people. You and your fleet saved our world." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "Elder Keth, I'm going to make you a promise. As long as humanity exists, no one will threaten the Zalani again. You're under our protection now." "But why?" Elder Keth asked, echoing General Vex's question. "What do you gain from this?" Admiral Sullivan thought about her answer. How could she explain the human concept of doing the right thing simply because it was right? "Elder Keth," she said finally, "there's an old human saying, 'A society is judged by how it treats its weakest members.' The Zalani called for help and we answered. That's who we are." As the transmission ended, Admiral Sullivan realized that something important had just happened. Humanity had announced its presence in the galaxy not through conquest or trade, but through protection of the innocent. The word would spread quickly through galactic civilization. There was a new species in the universe, one that would fight to protect others even when they had nothing to gain from it. The age of human protection had begun. The New Horizon hung in space, surrounded by 12 Krex warships. General Vex had finally cornered the annoying human vessel, but Jake Morrison was not ready to surrender. "Human Captain," General Vex's voice came through the speakers, rough and full of anger. "You have cost me many civilian ships. Now you will pay. Surrender and I will kill you quickly." Jake looked at his crew. They were tired and scared, but their eyes burned with determination. "What do you think, people? Should we surrender?" Amy checked her weapons. "Mining lasers still have power, Captain." Ben wiped sweat from his face. "Engines are holding together, barely." Lisa monitored the enemy communications. "They're planning to board us, Captain. They want to take prisoners." Jake stood up from his captain's chair. "Then we don't make it easy for them. Ben, take us down to the planet. Maximum speed." "Captain?" Ben looked confused. "The surface is dangerous. The Krex have been bombing it for days." "Exactly," Jake smiled. "They think it's too dangerous to follow us down there, but we're humans. Dangerous places are where we do our best work." The New Horizon dove toward the planet, with the Krex fleet following. General Vex was shouting orders, angry that his prey was still running. As they entered the atmosphere, Jake saw the damage the Krex had done. Beautiful cities were now smoking ruins. Forests burned where plasma bombs had fallen. But he also saw something else. Zalani survivors hiding in caves and underground shelters waiting for the raiders to leave. There, Jake pointed to a mountain range covered with thick clouds and electrical storms. "Take us into those storms." Ben shook his head, but obeyed. The New Horizon flew into weather that would have grounded any sane pilot. Lightning struck the ship's hull while winds tried to tear it apart. The Krex ships following them slowed down, afraid of the dangerous storms. "They're backing off," Amy reported. "Only 3 ships are still following us." Jake activated the intercom to speak to his whole crew. "Listen up, everyone. We're not running anymore. We're going to land and help. The Zelani people still on this planet. I know we're not soldiers, but sometimes ordinary people have to do extraordinary things." The ship landed in a hidden valley surrounded by tall mountains. The moment they touched down, Jake began organizing his crew into teams. Some would stay with the ship to make repairs and maintain communications. Others would go out to find Zelani, survivors, and help them fight back. Dr. Helen Chang was the ship's scientist, a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She had studied alien biology for 20 years. "Captain, I want to meet with the Zelani leaders. If we're going to help them, I need to understand how their society works." Jake nodded. "Take Lisa with you. We'll need to coordinate with any organized resistance." Amy gathered the crew members with military training. There were only 8 of them, but they knew how to use weapons and tactics. "We'll teach the Zelani how to fight back. Even peaceful people can learn to defend themselves." Ben looked at the damaged mining equipment and construction tools on their ship. "Captain, I have an idea. The Zelani have been terraforming this planet for centuries. They have machines that can move mountains and change rivers. If we modify them, they become weapons," Jake finished. "Do it." Over the next few days, the humans worked with Zelani survivors to organize resistance cells throughout the mountains. Dr. Chang met with Elder Keth and other leaders, learning about Zelani culture and psychology. "They're naturally peaceful," she reported to Jake. "But they're not cowards. They want to protect their families. They just don't know how." Amy set up training camps where she taught Zelani civilians basic combat techniques. The aliens were quick learners, and their natural agility made them excellent at guerrilla warfare once they understood the concepts. "Work in small groups," Amy explained to a class of Zelani volunteers. "Hit fast, then disappear. Don't try to match the Krex in open battle. Use your knowledge of this planet against them." Ben worked with Zelani engineers to turn their terraforming equipment into weapons. Machines designed to plant forests became trap setters. Tools meant to dig canals became tunnel makers for underground bases. Weather control systems became weapons that could create storms or floods. Meanwhile, the Krex grew frustrated. General Vex had expected to finish conquering the planet in a few days, but now his troops were being attacked by hidden enemies. His soldiers reported impossible things. Zelani fighters who appeared from nowhere struck hard, then vanished into terrain the Krex found too dangerous to follow. "How are they doing this?" General Vex demanded. "The Zelani are herbivores. They don't fight." His intelligence officer, a thin Krex with nervous eyes, studied the reports. "General, we think the humans are teaching them. Our intercepted communications mention death world tactics and predator strategies." General Vex had never heard these terms before. The Krex Empire conquered weak species, not dangerous ones. What is a death world? A planet so dangerous that the species living there must become predators to survive, the intelligence officer explained. "The humans come from such a world. They call it Earth." For the first time, General Vex felt a small shiver of fear. His species had evolved on a peaceful world with few natural dangers. They had become strong by conquering others, not by surviving daily threats. Jake Morrison crouched in a cave with Elder Keth, planning their next move. Around them, Zelani and human volunteers prepared weapons and checked equipment. Your people are learning fast, Jake told the alien leader. In another week, we'll be ready for major operations. Elder Keth's fur had changed from fear dark to determination bright. Captain Morrison, I must ask you something. Why did you come here? Your people owe us nothing. You could have stayed safe? Jake thought about the question. It was something his crew had discussed during quiet moments. Why had they risked everything for strangers? On Earth, Jake said slowly, we have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We couldn't listen to your call for help and do nothing. Elder Keth nodded, though Jake was not sure the alien fully understood. The Zalani had never needed to make such choices before. They had always been safe in their peaceful corner of the galaxy. There's something else, Jake continued. Humans form what we call packs, groups of people we care about and protect. Your people are in our pack now. That means we'll fight for you the same way we'd fight for our own families. A Zalani scout ran into the cave, breathing hard. Elder Keth, Captain Morrison, the Kreks are moving troops into the Sunward Valley. There are 300 civilians hiding there. Jake stood up and grabbed his rifle. How many Kreks troops? 200 soldiers with heavy weapons. Amy appeared at Jake's shoulder. Captain, we have 40 volunteers ready to fight. Mostly Zalani, but they're trained now. Jake did the math in his head. 40 fighters against 200 soldiers to protect 300 civilians. On paper, it was suicide, but humans had never been good at following what was written on paper. Get everyone ready, Jake ordered. We're going to show General Vex what happens when you threaten our pack. As the mixed force of humans and Zalani prepared to march into battle, something new was being born on this distant world. The galaxy was about to learn that when peaceful people asked humans for help, they got more than just soldiers. They got family. 6 days later, the New Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What Jake Morrison saw on his screen made his blood run cold. The Zalani homeworld was a beautiful blue and green planet, covered with forests and oceans. But around it floated the dark shapes of Krek's warships. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers on the planet's surface as the raiders bombed cities from orbit. How many ships? Jake asked. Amy counted the contacts on her screen. 12 warships, Captain, all bigger than us. They're using the planet for target practice. Lisa was trying to contact the Zalani. Her face was pale as reports came through her speakers. Captain, it's bad. Most of their major cities are gone. The Zalani are trying to evacuate in cargo ships, but the Kreks are hunting them down. On the main screen, Jake watched a Zalani transport ship try to escape the planet's gravity. It was slow and clumsy, designed to carry goods, not fight or run. A Kreks fighter caught it easily, firing plasma bolts that tore the civilian ship apart. There were no escape pods. Jake's hands clenched into fists. Get me a channel to the Zalani leadership. A few minutes later, a face appeared on the screen that made Jake's heart ache. The alien looked like a tall, thin deer with large golden eyes and fur that seemed to change color with emotion. Right now, the fur was dark with fear and sadness. I am Elder Keth, the alien said in careful galactic standard. Are you the humans? Who sent us a message? Yes, Jake replied. I'm Captain Morrison. We came as fast as we could. Elder Keth's eyes filled with tears. You came. I did not believe anyone would come, but you are only one small ship. The Kreks have many warships. I fear you will die with us. Jake looked at the tactical display. Elder Keth was right. The New Horizon was tiny compared to the Krek's fleet. But Jake had not come this far to give up. "Tell me about your evacuation," Jake said. "How many people are left on the planet?" "Millions," Elder Keth replied. "We have cargo ships trying to carry families to safety, but the Kreks destroy them for sport. We are not fighters, Captain Morrison. We have never built weapons. We do not know how to fight." Amy stepped forward. "Captain, I've been studying the Kreks formation. They're sloppy. They think this is easy, so they're not being careful." Ben looked up from his engineering station. "The mining lasers are ready, Captain. They're not much, but they'll cut through. Hull plating if we get close enough." Jake studied the enemy ships. The Kreks were spread out, overconfident. They were used to fighting people who could not fight back. They had never faced humans before. "Elder Keth," Jake said, "we're going to help your people escape. But I need you to do something for us." "Anything," the alien replied. "We need your cargo ships to work together. When I give the signal, I want every ship that can fly to launch at the same time. Head for the outer system. We'll keep the Kreks busy." Elder Keth looked confused. "But Captain, you have only one ship. How can you fight 12 warships?" Jake smiled, and there was something in that smile that would have scared the Kreks if they had seen it. "We're humans, Elder Keith. We're from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We learned how to fight back." The plan was simple and crazy. The New Horizon would attack the Krek's fleet, not to win, but to confuse them and draw their attention. While the raiders were distracted, the Zalani civilian ships would run for safety. "Are you ready?" Jake asked his crew. Ben nodded from engineering. "Engines at full power, Captain." Amy had her weapons ready. Mining lasers charged and locked on target. Lisa was coordinating with the Zalani. "All civilian ships are ready to launch, Captain." Jake took a deep breath. "Then let's show these bullies what happens when they pick on innocent people. Attack!" The New Horizon shot forward like an arrow from a bow. The little survey ship was fast, much faster than the heavy. Krek's warships. Jake aimed straight for the largest enemy vessel, the one that looked like a command ship. The Kreks were caught completely by surprise. Their sensors showed only one small human ship charging at their entire fleet. Their commander, General Vex, laughed when he saw it on his screen. "One little ship thinks it can fight us?" General Vex was a huge lizard-like alien with red scales and yellow eyes. "Destroy it quickly, then get back to hunting the cargo ships." But the New Horizon was not fighting like the Kreks expected. Instead of trying to match firepower with the warships, Amy targeted something else. Her mining lasers struck the sensor arrays on the command ship, blinding it temporarily. "What?" General Vex roared. "How dare they attack us? Kill them!" The Krek ships turned to chase the New Horizon, firing plasma cannons and missiles. But Jake flew his ship like a madman, diving and turning through space in ways that made his crew hold on tight to their seats. The heavy Krek ships could not keep up. "Now!" Jake shouted. All across the planet, Zalani cargo ships launched into space. Dozens of them, filled with families and children, heading for the outer system where they could jump to safety. General Vex saw them on his remaining sensors. "Stop the transports! Don't let them escape!" But the Krek's ships were spread out now, chasing the New Horizon. They could not catch all the fleeing cargo ships. Some of the raiders broke off to hunt the civilians, but most kept chasing the annoying human ship that had dared to attack them. Amy managed to score hits on 2 more. Krek's ships damaging their engines with precise laser strikes. The New Horizon darted between asteroids and space debris, using the mining lasers to cut apart rocks and create a cloud of dust that confused enemy sensors. "How long can we keep this up?" Ben asked. sweat running down his face as he pushed the engines beyond their normal limits. "As long as we have to," Jake replied, throwing the ship into another impossible turn that made the artificial gravity systems groan. On his screen, he could see most of the Zalani transports escaping to safety. Children and families who would live because 38 humans had decided that helping others was more important than being safe. General Vex was furious. Half the civilian ships had escaped, and his fleet was scattered across the system chasing one small survey vessel. This was not how conquests were supposed to work. "Bring all ships back together," he ordered. "We'll corner this human ship and destroy it slowly. I want to send a message to anyone else who thinks they can interfere with the Krex Empire." But as the enemy ships began to regroup, Jake Morrison smiled again. The first part of his plan had worked. Now came the hard part. He opened a channel to Elder Keth. "How many of your people escaped?" "About half, Captain Morrison. Thanks to your brave sacrifice, thousands of families are safe." Jake looked at his crew. Amy was checking weapons status. Ben was rerouting power from damaged systems. Lisa was monitoring enemy communications. They were tired, scared, but not beaten. "We're not done yet, Elder Keith. The fight is just beginning." The bridge of the New Horizon was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair, watching the stars move slowly past the main screen. His ship had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now, mapping new star systems for Earth's growing colonies. Jake was 45 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 20 years in space, first as a pilot, then as a captain. The New Horizon was not a warship. It was a survey vessel, built to explore and study, not to fight. Its crew of 38 people were scientists, engineers, and explorers. Lieutenant Amy Collins stood at the weapons station, though there were no real weapons to control. Amy was 32, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. She had trained as a military officer before joining the survey fleet. The New Horizon only had mining lasers and construction tools, things meant to break apart rocks and build stations, not fight battles. At the engineering station, Ben Rodriguez checked the ship's systems. Ben was a big man with gentle hands, perfect for the delicate work of keeping a starship running. He had joined the crew 2 years ago after his wife died in an accident on Mars. Space helped him forget his sadness. Lisa Park sat at the communications desk, listening to radio signals from distant stars. She was the youngest crew member at 26, with long black hair and quick fingers that danced over her controls. Lisa could speak 12 different languages and had studied alien communication for years at university. "Captain," Lisa said, suddenly her voice cutting through the quiet bridge. "I'm getting something strange." Jake turned his chair toward her. "What kind of strange?" Lisa frowned at her screen. "It's a transmission, but not from any human colony. The language it's galactic standard, but broken. Like someone learned it from old books." Galactic Standard was the common language used by most alien species for trade and diplomacy. Humans had learned it when they first met other races, 5 years ago. Most aliens spoke it perfectly, but this signal was different. "Can you clean it up?" Jake asked. Lisa's fingers moved over her controls. The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a voice came through. It was high and musical, but filled with fear. "Please, anyone who can hear this. We need help. Our world is dying. The Krex came 3 days ago. They have big ships with guns. We have no weapons. We are not fighters. Our people are being killed. Our cities are burning. Please, if there is anyone out there who can help us, we are called." the Zalani. Our world is in the Kepler 442 system. We have children who need to live. Please help us. The message repeated, growing weaker each time. The bridge was silent. Jake felt his chest tighten. He had heard about the Kreks from other ship captains. They were raiders who attacked weak planets and took whatever they wanted. They were strong and cruel, with ships full of weapons. "How far is Kepler 442? Jake asked. Amy checked her star charts. 6 days at full speed, Captain. Ben looked up from his station. Captain, we're not a warship. We have mining equipment and construction tools. The Kreks have real weapons, military ships. Jake knew Ben was right. The New Horizon was not built for fighting. Its hull was thin, designed for speed and efficiency, not battle. The crew were explorers and scientists, not soldiers. If they went to help the Zalani, they would probably die. But Jake could not forget the voice in the transmission. The fear, the sadness, the hope that someone, anyone, might come to help. "Lisa, do we know anything about the Zalani?" Jake asked. Lisa searched her computer files. "A little, Captain. They're herbivores, plant eaters. They've been in space for about 200 years, but they never developed military technology. They're known as peaceful traders and scientists. Their homeworld is listed as a garden world, very beautiful. And the Kreks?" Amy answered this time. "Raiders and pirates. They have a small empire built on conquest. They attack worlds that can't fight back, take what they want, then move on. They've been growing stronger over the past 10 years. Jake stood up and walked to the main screen. Out there, 6 days away, people were dying. Children were crying for their parents. A peaceful species was facing extinction because they had never learned to fight. "Captain," Ben said quietly, "if we go there, we'll probably die. The Kreks won't care that we're just a survey ship." Jake nodded. "You're right, Ben. This isn't our fight. We're not soldiers. We're not heroes." He turned to face his crew. "But I can't ignore that message. Can any of you?" Lisa shook her head. "Those people are going to die if no one helps them." Amy checked her weapons systems again. "The mining lasers could be modified. They won't be much against military shields, but they're better than nothing." Ben sighed and ran his hand through his hair. "If we're going to do this crazy thing, I'll need to work on the engines. We'll need every bit of speed and power we can get." Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were scared, but they were determined. This was why he loved working with humans. When someone needed help, they helped, even when it was dangerous. "All right," Jake said. "Lisa, send a message back to the Zalani. Tell them help is coming. Amy, start working on those mining lasers. Ben, give me everything the engines can handle. We're going to war." The New Horizon changed course, heading toward a system where people were dying and hoping for rescue. None of the crew knew they were about to teach the galaxy what it meant to ask humans for help. Behind them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself approved of their choice.